Hi, welcome to Mrs. G's Sewing Space. Today we are going to learn about hand sewing. This is going to be a short video. I'm going to show you only about 3 or 4 stitches to get you started on how to do hand sewing. I know there are a lot of people out there who don't have a sewing machine who would like to sew and create things but just don't have a machine, don't have room for a machine, or don't have money for a machine. And this will be something to get you started with so you can start being creative and creating the things that you want to while you're saving up for a machine, or you're trying to figure out space, or whatever it is that's keeping you from having a sewing machine. So we will have later videos regarding sewing machines, but right now, today is going to be the day about hand sewing, and so let's get to it. Okay, so this is going to be an awkward angle, and there might be some movement just because I don't have a tripod that's small enough that lets me work around. So you want a hand sewing needle, which is what this one is. It's a short needle. I think it's a sharp. It has a small eye, and I'm going to use black thread on to show you my stitching. So the first thing you do, you cut off a length of thread, and the thread should be about 12 to 14 inches long, and if you do double, it should be twice that. So what we're going to do is take the end of your thread and thread it through the hole, and you're going to have to, you see a lot of people licking the end of the threads, and that's because you want to get it as stiff and thick as possible. Now you're probably not going to be able to see this. Did I do it? Nope, I didn't do it. Nope, didn't do it there either. Wait, did I do it? Oh, okay, I did it there. So we'll get the thread, the needle threaded, and pull it all the way to the end, to where the end of your so you have 2 ends, and I always work with double threads. Single threads are just messy to me. Alright, so take your 2 ends of your threads and put them together, and you want to pull your thread like this. This helps get the knots out. It helps unravel anything. You just do it 2 or 3 times to the end, so just to make it all nice and pliable, so that you get all the knots and wonkiness out of the thread before you even get started. So you take the end of your thread and you hold it with your thumb and you wrap it around your finger. So you see the cross there? It crosses just like that. And you're going to use your thumb and you're going to fold the end of that thread up over, and you're going to twist it off. Just rolling it right off like that. And you see it all twisted up right there, and then you just take it and you pull. And that's one way to knot your thread. And with that, I'm going to show you how to do a running stitch. And a running stitch is used for basting. It's used to keep pieces of fabric together temporarily when you want to have something held together, and then before you sew it permanently so that it stays together and it doesn't shift. So knowing how we've made our knot, and remember, this is a video, so you can stop it and rewind and watch it all over again if you don't understand how I did that. So, and a running stitch is where you pop it inside on one side like this, and you just do the same thing so you got a couple of stitches on your needle, and then you pull it through. And that is a running stitch. So I'll show you again. Continue doing it. And you try to space it out as evenly as you can to make it look nice. You know, if this is going to be showing, you know, you always want it to look nice. So you in and out and in and out till you have some, these are your stitches up on your needle. Then push your needle through. Pull on the ends, straighten out your stitches, and that is a running stitch. And like I said, this is for temporary basting or any type of temporary seams together or anything like that. If you don't want your fabric to shift, if you have a really slinky fabric that moves a lot, that's slippery, this is what you want to do. You want to do a running stitch to baste your seams together before you sew them together, so that way the seams won't shift. Because when you're on a sewing machine and your top and your bottom layer start moving around, then all sorts of wonky things happen. And so that is a running stitch. Okay, our next stitch that we're going to learn about is called the back stitch. And for this back stitch, I did something different on my thread. I did not knot the thread this time around like I did previously. So there's still two separate pieces of thread right here. And I'm going to show you how to knot your thread as you stitch at the beginning of this particular seam. So for a back stitch, this is how you're going to do this. Excuse me. So you start out like a running stitch. You're in, you're out, and you pull it with that one stitch on the needle. One stitch on the needle. You go ahead and pull your thread through till you have a tail about 2 inches. So we're going to pull that all the way through till you have about a 2-inch tail right there. Let's shift over a bit, put that down. Okay, so to knot the beginning of this line, we are going to make another stitch in the exact same spot. So we're going to go in the same place and out the same place, or as close as possible. So we're making a stitch right in the exact same place that we made our first stitch, and we're going to pull it all the way in. Okay, so you see that? You have a stitch right there, and this is a way to knot your thread without making actual knots. So this is the start of this. So a back stitch is a really strong stitch. It's used a lot for strength, and this is how you back stitch. So you take a stitch, we'll start right here, similar to a running stitch, like that. Okay, so see, I'm going to put a space in between where I came out and where I'm going to enter. So I'm going to enter here, just like a running stitch. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to pull the thread all the way through, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to enter here. But this time I'm not going to pop out here, I'm going to pop out past here. So see this? See where I'm coming out at? So the thread's in the middle. I'm going to make that a little shorter. And now I'm going to pull that thread all the way through. Oh, I got a knot. There you go. Pull that all the way through. So there you go. So you have a line of stitching right there. It's kind of like making, and this is called a back stitch. I was about to say it's like making back stitches. This is exactly what it is. It's making back stitches. So I'm going to enter here, push my needle through past where I came out. So my thread's in the middle, just like this. Oop. Trying to make it clear so you guys can see. Just like this, see? And I'm going to pull the thread through. Try not to tangle it. That's what it looks on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and finish working right across, just like this. Oops. In here, out here. My thread in the middle. Okay, so there's our last stitch. So this is what it looks like in the front. We learned how to knot it here in the back. Oops, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. So okay, so here you go. This is what it looks like, and it looks similar to the stitches you find on a sewing machine. The length of my stitches are slightly different. This is what the back looks like. See how it's a little lopsided. I need more practice. My hand sewing's not as good as it could be. So there you go. And so what we're going to do, how we're going to end this seam, we are going to do the exact same thing we did at the beginning. We're going to take a stitch in place. So we're going to come in here just like we would start our back stitch, but instead of coming out here, we're not going to come out here. We're going to come out right where the middle is. See that? So it's like taking a half back stitch, I guess. So instead of going all the way past it, we're going to go right where our thread came out. Make that a stitch right there. And you know what? For extra security, we're going to do it one more time. In the exact same place, or as close to as that place as possible. And there you go. And that you have the beginning and the end of the back stitch. And this is a stitch that gives you strength in your seams. And so there you go. So that's a good seam right there. Okay, so that's our back stitch. So our next stitch is called our whip stitch, and a whip stitch is a stitch that goes over the edge of your fabric. And a whip stitch is usually used for fabrics that fray a lot, like here. You see this one starting to fray some, and what it does, it keeps your the strands, the thread, from coming undone. It's used in couture a lot. In haute couture, they use just hand stitching. They very seldom use sewing machines. Everything's usually done by hand. So in order to keep your seams, your fabrics, from unraveling, they do a whip stitch over it, and it acts like a serger seam so that the threads will stop coming undone. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and pull those off just to make the edge of the seam nicer. I'm going to snip that off right there. There we go. Okay, so this is how you do a whip stitch. So you take your thread, you enter at the front, you pull your thread, and you go over the edge so that your thread sits on top, like that. And it wraps around. So the thread came out of the back, so your needle goes in the front, and you want to make them kind of close together. It doesn't have to be too close, but they need to be kind of close together. Pull your thread, and you don't want them tight. They're just there to keep things from unraveling. So front to back, and then make sure the loop that you make is on top, just like that. I'm trying to see as I'm doing this, but I want to make sure you guys stay in focus. Alright, so like that. So we enter at the front. Oops. And have the loop on top, pull from the back. This is why I got a serger in the first place, so I don't even have to worry about this. Okay, well that's all I'm going to do on that one. I'm like, holy schmoly, this is just driving me crazy. Okay, so that's a whip stitch, and that's the point of a whip stitch, because in hand sewing it takes place of a serger stitch there, or an overcast. It's also an overcast, because you can find an overcast on a sewing machine as well. You don't have to have a serger to do that, but this is what you do by hand. And my hand sewing is not pretty by any means. It takes a lot of practice, and the more practice you do, the better that you'll get, and the quicker you'll be able to do it. My hand stitching just plain old sucks. But there you go. So that's a whip stitch, and that's the purpose of it. Okay, the last stitch that I'm going to show you today is called the ladder stitch. Now we're going to start off Do you remember how to put a knot at the end of your thread? Remember how I showed you to do that earlier in the video? Just take it, wrap it around your finger so that it crosses over. Oops, let's do that again and get loose. Around your finger so that it crosses over. Oh my goodness, I'm just having all sorts of problems today. Fold, use your thumb, fold over that edge and just roll it off the tip of your finger and pull on the other end, and that's how you get a knot. So this is how you do a ladder stitch. A ladder stitch is used to close, if you make stuffies and you have a hole where you stuff all your stuffing in, once it's done, this is a ladder stitch. This is what you'll do to use, this is what you will use to close the hole once your stuffy is stuffed. And I'm sure you'll be able to use this on other, if you're making clothes, anything that has a folded edge that needs to butt up against each other would be, a ladder stitch would be used for that as well. So I'm going to start here on the inside. I'm going to take my needle and thread and I'm going to go to the inside on that top layer right here and pop out right there on the folded edge. I'm not going through it because I want my knot hidden on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it through. So there's my knot right there. And then I'm going to fold my edges together like so. And I'm either going to pin them closed or I'm just going to hold them closed. Right now I'm going to hold them closed. So for this demonstration, this is what I'm going to show you. So you take your needle and thread, you have your knot hidden in the seam, you close your seams together, and this is what you do. You go in to the top of the fold and you make a small amount and you pop your needle out. Okay, so you pull it through and that leaves one ladder or step right there. And to go to the next section, you're going to take your thread and it's going to go straight across, and that's where you're going to put your needle in. The needle's going to go in straight across where your fold is, into your fold, right there. And you go and you're going to take a little bit. You're going to stitch in the fold, not behind the fold, not in front of the fold, but in the fold itself. Thread going straight across, enter here, take a small amount, and right there, see, it's just a small amount right there. You don't need too much. And you pull your thread through. So now I've got like 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, and you continue doing that back and forth all the way to the end. And then when you get to the end, or depending on if you have a super long seam, if you have a long seam you're doing this to, you can pull it to as you seam. But you're going into the fold, small amount of fabric, pop out on the other side, and then pull it to. Now, when you have enough and you're done, you want to close your seam, you just pull your thread. Might have to inch, ooch, 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 ooch. See how that closes up? It closes up just like that. And if you continue doing it, your thread, especially if you use a matching thread, it'll disappear. And you won't even be able to see it. And that closes up that seam. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this one, just like I have been. And then you just pull it tight. Just pull, pull, pull. And you know, if you pull too tight, it'll start to gather up. That's not what you want. You just straighten it back out. And you keep on keeping on. And when you get to the end, you just make a couple of back stitches in you just make a couple of back stitches in the last stitch that you made. So I take a stitch here and I go straight through. So it's just like a back stitch. And then I'll do this 1 or 2 more times in the exact same place. making sure to catch both sides. And then I slide my thread through. So it's like going underneath, through the tunnels. And that should secure it enough. And you can snip your seams. And there you go. So making pillows, closing up stuffy animals, butting whatever seams that need to go together. This is the seam that you want, and it's called a ladder stitch. I think there's another name for it, but I'm not positive of it. But I was taught that it's the ladder stitch, and that's how you do it. Okay, so now we have learned about 4 stitches and 2 ways to knot your stitches. One with an actual knot and one with an actual stitch. So, to recap, a running stitch is just a stitch that goes in and out of the fabric, and it's a temporary stitch used to base things together, like slippery fabrics or anything that you just want temporarily together. The back stitch is the main stitch that's used to put seams together. It's a stronger stitch, it'll hold things together longer, and it's better, it's more like a sewing machine stitch, but you're doing it by hand. The whip stitch is what is used to cover the edges of your fabric so that they won't unravel. So this takes place of I don't know if you can see the white, but it takes place of a serger or an overcast stitch. And the ladder stitch, which you can't see and you shouldn't be able to see, is a stitch that closes holes for like stuffies or pillows, or just to butt 2 fabrics together that have folded edges. As long as they have 2 edges that are folded to the inside, then you can use the ladder stitch to put those fabrics together and have them into like one piece of fabric for whatever reason you need to use that for. So those are your basic stitches. Those are to get you started with hand sewing and to get you on the road to creativity. Hey guys, I hope you guys liked the video about the hand sewing, about learning about those 4 stitches and 2 ways to knot your threads so that you'll be able to continue on your journey. For those of you guys who don't have sewing machines, I hope that you get sewing machines one day because they're all awfully awesome. But just remember, when you're starting out with this, that it's going to be slow, it's going to be tedious in the beginning. You're going to get frustrated in the beginning. But as you continue to practice and work on your skills, you will get better. Your skills will get better, you will get faster, and then you'll be able to doing all sorts of awesome hand sewing. So just remember that. If you like the video, like it, share it, and comment below letting me know what you guys think about it. If you have any questions, put that in the comments below, and always remember to subscribe to the channel. I'll be putting out more videos, and I'd like to have some type of discussion with you guys. Let me know what you think. So remember, subscribe. I'll have more videos coming out soon. If you like everything, that's awesome. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.